Okay, hello everyone. We are going to continue our discussion under market entry strategies. So we are still on market entry strategy. So second topic from the last. So we are already done with the choosing mode of entry and exporting. Now we are going to discuss licensing. So as per our lesson roadmap, medyo taas ba ni nga road? So let's continue. So just a review. These are we are still on the topic of choosing the mode of entry. So what are the mode of entry? So these are the mode of entries in a foreign market. We have first the exporting. We discussed the indirect and cooperative and also direct exporting in the previous lecture. Now we are going to discuss about licensing. So licensing, franchising, joint ventures and alliances, and wholly owned subsidiaries. So on the second mode of entry. So this one is exporting. We'll go to licensing. Okay. Licensing. So I guess nana mo'y enough idea or background what licensing means or nanagid mo general idea what this is. So licensing is a contractual transaction where the firm, the licensor offers some proprietary assets to a foreign company, the licensee in exchange for royalty fees. So it is something contractual nga transaction between sa licensor, imuhang company, and the foreign company, which we call the licensee. So again, ikaw, let's say ikaw, you are the producer of mushroom chicharon, and you want to um, export your product, or probably na gusto mag-distributor sa lain nga bansa or lain nga country. So with that, nagsabot mo, you had an agreement. So a contractual transaction. So ikaw ang licensor, so siya ang licensee katong foreign nga company. So gusto daw niya i-buy ang imuhang products. I-buy or mangayo sila og kana bitang license to distribute your product. So good as distributor daw ni sila. So international version nga distributor. So again, in exchange for royalty fees. So let's say makipag-collaborate sila sa inyo ha, given sa imong product. So na sila ikuan murag authority to sell your product under um your approval. So that's what we call licensing. So examples of assets can be part of a licensing agreement includes your trademarks, your technology know-how, your production processes, and your patents. So again, the trademarks, imuhang technology nga gihimo or imong processes, your production processes, and imong patents mismo. Ilahan ng mura bitag um, may silag approval from you to distribute or use your kani mga products or kani mga assets. So these are called assets manggod. So let's say they want to know your technology know-how sa pag-produce sa imuhang mushroom chicharon. Ginaunsa nimo, okay ra ba nga among pong i-follow na mga iramig license sa imuha nga among awaton ang imuhang process on how to produce your product or probably your trademark. So yung trademark gamiton na mo imuhang name. So let's say mushroom chicharon. Mo pud na among gamiton nga name nga amo ang i-use among company to sell your products and so on and so forth. So more siya good as um gapangay lang ka og consent sa parent nga company or sa main company which is the licensor nga again i-distribute ang imuhang product. So that is licensing. Probably ang imuhang brand iyang i-buy, your trademark, ang imuhang processes or imuhang patents itself. So we have what we call royalty fees or what we call royalty rates. So they range from 1/8 of 1% to 15% of sales revenue. So that is licensing. Like let's say, di ba, gusto man sila mag-distributor. So nagkuhan sila sa imuhang technology or process sa paghimog mushroom chicharon. So with that, naa kay gaka-gain sa ilaha. Given nga nananghid sila sa imuha nga to distribute your product, to distribute and produce your own product nga sila ang maghimo again sa lain nga nasod. So naka-revenue ato at least mga 1% to 15%. Medyo gamay ra pod kay kuan naman siya more on sila mismo mag-operate and maghimo sa imong product, then igura sila nananghid to copy your processes. So mong medyo gamay ra pud ang imong royalty rates or imong revenue. Mga pila ra ka percent, 15% below probably. So again, it depends on your agreement and as to what extent pud ang ilahang gusto nga ipa-license. So for instance, Oriental Land Company owns and operates Tokyo Disneyland under license from Disney. So in return for using Disney name, Oriental Land Company pays royalties to Disney. Okay, as you can see, we have this example. So si Oriental Land Company, so let's say sa Japan, kay Tokyo man. So Oriental Land Company, so taga Japan, they want to ask Disney for a license. So they want, gusto sila mutukod og Tokyo Disneyland sa Japan. So nangayon sila license sa Disney nga, pwede ba namo gamiton inyong name kay Disneyland man. So nisugot si Disney but magbayad sila og royalties or royalties sa Disney. So magbayad sila probably 10% sa ilahang halin kay gigamit man ilahang name and so on and so forth. So that is licensing. So we have another example. We have Hasbro. So this is the American toy maker used as a wide-ranging licensing program to bring some of its iconic toy brands to Europe. So si Hasbro daw gusto siya gusto siya distribute sa iyang product sa Europe. So they tend to do licensing programs sa example sa European nga mga countries. So let's have for instance to introduce the Furby character, an interactive robotic toy pet. Hasbro set up a licensing program that covered items such as apparel, back-to-school supplies, food and beverages, home decor, and supporting goods. So si Mr. Hasbro, in order for him to distribute kanidong si Furby nga character. So si Furby kay dulaan, robotic toy pet. So with that, na siya licensing program. Niya na siya nga under sa akong licensing program or agreement na siya kuan apparel, school supplies, food and beverages, and so on and so forth. So kung gusto mo again, magpa-license under sa among name, you can have all of these benefits. So that is licensing. So ilahang gina-encourage those example, local nga companies, especially in Europe, to buy our license or agree to our licensing program so that you can distribute our products. So another type of mode of entry, of marketing entry sa international market. So another example of global expansion via licensing is Yoplait. So Yoplait is a global yogurt brand co-owned by General Mills. So this is the U.S. food conglomerate and French dairy cooperative Sodial. Yoplait has a network of 26 licensees around the world. So si Mr. Yoplait daw, so this is a company. So under daw ni siya kay General Mills, ay co-owned by General Mills sa US. So they produce a yogurt, a global yogurt brand. So with that, naghatag siya og mga at least 26 licensees around the world. So that's how how they enter the market given nga gipalit siguro ilang name, ilang processes, and so on and so forth. So kato yung mga local companies nag-produce or good as ginaduplicate ra bitaw nila ang ihang mga processes and producing their own yogurt but kuan siya kanang under licensing. So that is licensing. Medyo same ni siya sa franchising. So I hope dili mo maglibog. So franchising is more on adapting everything. So more siya imo gyud gi-copy paste ang whole company itself. While for licensing, most ang imo ra gibay kay ang a certain part of the parent company. So probably iyang brand name, iyang processes, iyang patents, and so on and so forth. Kay mura kag gapananghid to use these their name compared to franchising kay ikaw mismo ang nag-duplicate. So, gi-duplicate nimo ang parent company sa imuhang local nga company or subsidiary nga company. So, again, there's a difference between the two. So, in high-tech industries daw, companies often enter cross-licensing agreements. So, we have other term cross-licensing ng mga agreements. So under the cross-licensing agreement, parties mutually share patents of comparable value without payment of licensing fees. One big practitioner of cross-licensing is Microsoft. So especially in high-tech industries, so high mga technology industries, especially Microsoft, they tend to do cross-licensing. So, more siya og kana bitang instead of mubayad sila, magkuan sila, more sila ga trade. Okay. It's good as trading, but with consent, okay. So, trading pero dili nimo i-own kay kuan naman gyud murag tag-iya gyud ato. So, trading but not owned. So, they tend to share patents daw. Patents with the same value. So, example, si Microsoft na siya patent sa let's say Word, Microsoft Words. So, Microsoft Office. So, let's say the whole package. So, Microsoft Office iyan ng patent. Iyan magyud ang name. Then, si Apple pod, let's say si iOS. Si MacBook, wala siya ing ato. Wala siya Microsoft Word, which is needed kay siya. So, probably nagsabot sila nga, okay, kay dili man ko, ay wala man ko yung Microsoft Word, ay Microsoft Office ako ang iOS, dili sa akong MacBook, then mag-trade ko sa imo or mga ikog license sa imo nga to use your Microsoft 360. So it can operate in iOS too para ay para ma-use gyapon siya sa akong user. Kay needed man ang example, let's say Microsoft Office sa MacBook too. So nanangkit si let's say Apple kay Microsoft nga mukuan siya magkig cross license. So gamiton nako ang imuhang gamiton nako ang imuhang Microsoft Office, ikaw pod pwede pod nimo gamiton ako ang let's say um kani Apple nga kuan unsa may Apple nga murag same og equivalent sa Microsoft Office. Di mo ko familiar sa MacBook. So for those familiar, basin kabalo na mo. So let's say nay kuan pod application si Apple nga kailangan pod ni Microsoft ni Windows. So mo din to nagsabot din sila nga okay, pwede na ko ay musugot mi sa cross licensing. So you can use ours and you can use our too. So mura kag trade off but dili ikaw ang pero dili ikaw ang nag-own. Unlike trading, manggod kay ikaw manggod mag-own if makuha na nimo ang isa ka product. So licensing is murag igor-igid ka mananghid to use something of someone's kuan. So again, cross-licensing sa Microsoft. So nakipag cross-license siya sa other nga mga systems. Labi na sa mga MacBook, sa Android probably kay I think sa iPhone pud maka-use man pud ta og maka-download og Microsoft nga mga Office, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint and etc. So that's an example of licensing. Ilahagya pong pangalan pero magamit nato sa lain nga devices from laptop to iPhones to Androids nga cellphones. So that's licensing. So in August 2008 daw, for instance, Microsoft and Nikon signed a patent cross-licensing agreement that covered digital cameras and other consumer products. So the agreement enabled both parties to innovate with each other's technologies. So let's have another example. In 2008 daw, nakig-collaborate si Microsoft ug Nikon. So they have a patent cross-licensing. So more on digital cameras and consumer products. So as you know, Nikon kay ga-produce sila og mga cameras, DSLRs. So with that, nag-collaborate um, si Microsoft og si Nikon. So ilahang mga products daw ni Microsoft kay ilahang gusto sila magkuan manggod mag-upgrade sa ilahang mga let's say sa camera, sa ilahang laptop or sa ilahang mga other devices. So nagkuan sila. They have an agreement to innovate with each other's technology. Si Nikon gusto siya makabalo sa how does Microsoft um use its technology and also Microsoft too. Gusto siya mag-know how to use the camera, what cameras kanabitang pwede siya ibutang sa laptops and so on and so forth. So that is licensing. Again, more on agreement or kanabitang kag consent to use each other's technologies. So in order for you to innovate. So marami siya nag-collaborate mo. So we have advantages of licensing too. So for many companies, licensing has proven to be a very profitable means of penetrating foreign markets. So as you all know, grabe siya ka kuan effective given nga murag wala kay kuan ani hassle kay igo raman siya um let's say ikaw you are a local market then ang foreign nga let's say company gusto siya mga license sa imuha to produce your own product iyang gamito ng imuhang brand name. So as easy as that makapenetrate na ka og foreign nga market given nga siya na mismo ang mag-produce sa imuhang product or mag use sa imuhang brand name. So there's no need for you to penetrate it or kanabit ang magasto gid kag dako kay igor man siya as simple as a licensing agreement kay maka-penetrate na gyud ka og foreign na market. So licensing is not very demanding on the company's resource. So as I said, there's no need for you to gas too much, especially on marketing, on production and so on and so forth. Kay kato na mismong licensee ang mag-produce sa imong product. So it is especially appealing to small companies that lack the resources wherewithal oh wherewithal to invest in foreign facilities. So especially when you don't want to dili pa kay ka makakuan bitaw maka focus on production and manufacturing in foreign countries. So there's no need for you again to invest in those. Kay igor man as simple as licensing agreement ang isa na din ka company ang bahala sa tanan. So kuan siya hassle free. Nice og dali ra pod kay siya. But kabalo naman mo no nga gamay man ang no ng halin. So licensing also allows the licensor to navigate around import barriers to get access to markets that are completely closed to imports. So napagid mo access especially for those countries, let's say katong countries kay ginabawal nila ang exporting daw or importing products. So with under licensing mas naanon kay mura ka gigaan niya og gate pass. Okay, gigaan kanya gate pass to penetrate the product or import into that country. Given nga na may local country mismo nga kuan nga produce sa imuhang product or kanang gayu sa imuhang product and technology. So with that, there's no need for you to again to gasto kaayo and makapenetrate ka especially for those country nga very strict in importing. So for instance, several foreign tobacco companies in China use licensing agreements to avoid the high import tax levied on import goods. So local governments may also favor licensing over other entry modes. So example daw sa China, na daw sila ay tobacco company. So kanang mga tobacco, let's say sigarilyo, okay, in China. So in order to avoid daw katong mga importing tax, ilan na lang naki-license sila, nakig-licensing para mas mugamay. So good as kuan man good siya kana bitawng mura good as no need for you to import very high products kay na may kuan gisugdan naman nga to produce and sell your product naman sa China. So good as dili siya importing. Kay you are producing it naman sa ilahang kuan, sa ilahang locality. Kay given nga na naman sila license to produce such product. So dili na kay sakit sa imuha ang import taxes. So local governments also like this one kay mas easy siya, mas dali og mas makuan pud nila monitor og ayo. And at the same time ang good kay gina-promote pud ang mga local companies. So it is not kanabitang dili kay kanid mo tukod og foreign nga company dadto kay ilahan namang mga local companies ang gapadagan sa imuhang products. So di lang pud kay sila mahadlok og untay na ma-trigger og maayo kay they really want to promote local man ingana mo ang each countries. So mas mo favor sila og licensing kaysa you do kaysa ikaw na mismo ang magtukod og manufacturing dadto or ikaw mismo ang magpatukod og isa ka whole store of your products there kay medyo threatening man sad sa ilahang local na market. So that's the advantage of licensing. So companies that use licensing lower their exposure to political or economic instabilities in their foreign markets. So this is another reason that's why it's advantageous or why local governments like licensing more because dili kay siya again makaapekto sa ilahang political at the same time economic instability sa foreign nga markets. So the only volatility that the licensor faces are the ups and downs in the royalty income stream. Other risks are absorbed by the licensee. So the only kuan lang yun problem daw siguro sa licensor, like example, ikaw man ang licensor, kay probably mo taas or mo gamay ang royalty. Kay depende pod baya sa ilaha if halinon imong product or not. So let's say kung halinon kay mong product, probably ilang patasan nimuhang royalty. So instead of 10%, ilang idagan to 15%. But if mugamay ang ilahang ang halin, so probably mugamay pud ang imong royalty. So it always depends on their kuan pod halin. So other na din nga risk kay more on the licensing nga part kay sila raman mismo ang nangayo og again og consent sa inyo ha to use your product. So they are responsible for the operation and production na dayon. So all other risk kay sa ilahan na. So for you as a licensor, wala na kay other problem aside from katulang mo up and down ang royalty. So it fluctuates over time. So a company might even forgo royalties and offer its product available for free, as Google did with its open source Android software, which is the platform for smartphones made by, for instance, Samsung and HTC. So, let's have this another example. Talag sa kay gina-free ragay ni Google daw ihang royalties, di na siya gusto magpa-bayad kay given nga daghan pud og user baya especially in the Android software on those smartphones, especially Samsung and HTC. So actually si Samsung ug HTC all smartphone nga naay Google, mananghid gyud na sila kay Google. So they have to ask for licensing to use Google. So, talag sa si Google daw kay yan ang gyud ang i-free. So, buutan pud generous pud biya si Google gamay. So, yan ang i-free sa mga kuan daw Samsung ay sa mga smartphone such as Samsung and HTC nga kusog kay sila mo produce og kuan number of units of smartphones. Okay. Kay kusog man sila mo produce, probably moingon na si Google nga sige free na lang sa inyo ha kay daghan man mog user. Compared sa iPhone, magpabayad ko sa ilaha kay kuan man. Mahalon man sila, charing. Basig something nga nang gihimo ni Google sa uban. So, Google tanan nga mostly inyo bitong ka-access nga free sa inyong smartphone kay ginapananghid yun na sa kuan sa imong smartphone. So, let's say si Samsung mananghid siya kay Microsoft, mag-use og katong Microsoft Office, mananghid siya kay Google, mag-use og Google, mananghid siya kay any applications bitaw nga need nimo kuanon. Need nimo i-download og i-use. Mangay kag license ana. So sometimes sa Play Store kabantay mo na sila mga licensing agreements nga need pud ka mo agree as the user itself. So at least nabitaw agreement again to use such nga mga products. So, we also have advantages. So, daghan kay advantage ang licensing. Nice kay siya nga mode of entry. So, very sayon. So, how about its disadvantages? So, the licensee may not be fully committed to the licensor's products or technology. And lack of enthusiasm on the part of the licensee will greatly limit the sales potential of the licensed product. So, mo gini pud ang isa ka problem. So, let's say, di ba, si licensee nigbay sa imuha or nangayo siya og kuan consent sa imuha to use your product or to use your name. Probably dili ka siya committed to use that one. And kana bitong dili ka siya excited to do that. So with that mo lesser ang imuhang halin. So let's say for Google. So, di ba na may kalaban si Google? I think sa Huawei, correct me if I'm wrong ha, sa Huawei kay diretso nga Bing. Instead of Google, Bing ang iyang default nga search engine. So let's say that one. So nanangid si Huawei kay Google nga, okay Mr. Google, ngayo ko ay magkuan ko sa imong license agreement nga mag-use mi sa imong product. Ni okay si Google. Okay, so that na okay na si Google. So with that, pwede na mo use o Google ang mga Huawei users. But pag go nila silang browser, ang automatic man mo gawas kay Bing. So, dili kay gakagamit si Google. So, that's another disadvantage for licensing. kay dili man kayo magamit or dili kay committed ang licensee to promote or use your product or technology sa licensor. Si licensee, again, si Huawei, si licensor kay si Google. So, dili kay siya mo gamit o Google, kaya na naman din siya default nga Bing. So, Bing is, kuan siya. I think familiar mo sa Bing, B-I-N-G, that's a search engine nga murag ang iyang source kay dili ko sure gyapon ha. Let's say China. So, China po siya kay Huawei is, kuan be, a product of China. So, let's have that as an example. So, those are just assumptions ha, for examples only. So lack of enthusiasm on the part of the licensee will greatly limit. Also again, if dili ka siya gina-use, mas lesser ang iyang sales potential sa imuhang product. Like dili di ka siya i-promote ni licensee, kinapadi siya mas lain nga gina-promote. So that's another disadvantage to it. Given nga gamay na ba unta imong share, imong halin, mas mugamay og samot. So when the licensing agreement involves a trademark, there is the further risk that misguided moves made by the licensee may tarnish the trademark covered by the agreement. So another thing na pod nga need nimo i-take note or yung disadvantage kay kuan misguided daw ang moves. Or example, let's say, di ba si um, Oriental Land ba to sa kuan Japan? They ask for the brand name or trademark sa Disney. So they nagtukod sila Tokyo Disneyland. So with that, let's say sa Tokyo Disneyland kay nahitabo nga scandal. So murag example, si Mr. Mickey Mouse di ay kay kuan iyang nahapakan si ang bata. So kuan na kay siya mura siya madaot ang name sa whole Disney itself, dili lang sa Oriental Land Company but also the whole Disney all over the world. Di na din sila gusto matug Disney kay si Mickey Mouse daw kay nang hapak daw siya og bata. So again, that's another risk for you pod nga dili na siya mawala. So madamay ang not one Disneyland but all Disneyland in the whole world. So other risks include not getting paid, failure to produce in a timely manner, or the desired volume, and loss of control of the marketing of the product. So the typical disadvantages pod kay murag kuan manggod dili manggod ni imuha, indirect manggod siya. So again, probably di ka mabayaran, that's number one. Dili sila ka produce in a manner, madaot ang imuhang name, ang volume, dili nila makaya ang demand, loss of control sa market of the products, and so on and so forth. So again, mubalik na tanan sa imuha, given nga imuhang name ang gina-use. So those are some of the disadvantages of licensing. So the biggest danger is the risk of opportunism. Okay. Opportunism daw ang pinaka number one nga danger. So a licensing agreement could nurture a future competitor. Today's comrade in arms often becomes tomorrow's rival. So mao daw ni siya ang pinakahadlok under licensing. Di ba example, nakabalo na siya sa imong process. So that means nga there's a big possibility nga iya tong gamiton against sa imuha. So let's say kabalo na din siya sa imuhang pag-produce og mushroom chicharon. So instead nga gamiton imuhang pangalan, let's say imong pangalan kay kuan mushroom chicharon. So ay the original mushroom chicharon. So siya pod nagtukod pod siya. Okay, kuan kanang mushroom chicharon with love mao daw na iyang company. So mo siya gigamit ang imuhang again imuhang ingredients, imuhang processes para ikalaban sa imuha pagkuha niya sa license. So that's the pinakahadlok gyud nga danger. Kay probably friends siya nimo siya karon kay nagpa-license siya, nangayo siya og example. Hala mga ko sa imong ingredients, gyud sa nimo pagluto sa imuhang kuan, sa imong cake. Kay gusto ko moawat, gusto ko maghimo pod. So example, imo siya gitudluan paghimo og cake. Pagkaugma din kay nagtukod na siya og ihapong cafe, di ba? Pero ang iyang gigamit nga ingredients sa cake o pag-process paghimo sa cake kay same sa imuha. So that's the number one good nga danger or hadlok sa iya. Pagkabalo niya gani sa ingredients or process, imo na din siyang makalaban. So friend mo siya karon, kalaban na nimo siya ugma. So that's the number one disadvantage under licensing. So the licensee can leverage the skills it acquires during the licensing period once the agreement expires. So if na siya enough knowledge, okay, nga niyon naman dahil ni. So kung mahuman na niya mo agreement, mag-produce kog same sa iyang nga product, akong gamiton ang iyahang process, akong gamiton ang iyahang ingredients, and so on and so forth. So that's the number one good nga kahadlukan under licensing. So companies can make several moves now to protect themselves against the risk of licensing agreements. So there are many moves how to protect yourself para dili bitaw ka maka-produce og kanang mga maro kay nga mga kuan nga mga, let's say, licensee. So para dili sila mo backfire sa imuha kani nga licensing agreements, you can protect yourselves. So the company should seek patent or trademark protection abroad. So as you know, patent or trademark will really help you. So let's say example, ang imong process day kay patented. So that means nga dili gyud siya dapat mag-use sa imuhang process. Once you apply, once you nagpa-register ka sa imong process, sa imuhang brand names, sa imong trademark, not just in the local but also abroad. Kay once nga makuan man gud ni siya ma-recognize, that means nga dili na siya pwede i-copy for di na siya ma-copy with anyone. So a thorough profitability analysis of a licensing proposal is a must. So you must know what is the profitability analysis sa imong licensing proposal para at least kanang kabalo bitaw mo nga in case of again mag-traitor siya or magminaro sa imuha, at least nga ikaw kay mabawi na pud nimo ang mga possibilities of loss. So let's say loss sa imuhang sa production, sa know-how, sa technology, or sa process itself. Such an analysis must identify all the costs that the venture ensures, including the opportunity costs that stem from revenues that need to be sacrificed. So under the profitability analysis naman, so I think you already know how to do the profitability index o KPI and the opportunity cost. So with that, at least imo gyud siyang i-kuan bitaw, i-make sure daan sa inyong agreement first nga okay, mo ni akong gusto nga percent nga makuha kay para at least kanang in case of emergency, like imo kong i-trade mabawi na gyud nako siya daan. So based on the revenue nga need mo i-sacrifice. So careful selection of prospective licensees is extremely important. This one too, you really need to select pod kinsa ang imuhang gaan og kanang agreement, license agreement. Dapat trusted siya nga company, sada siya performance, sada siya og dungog, and so on and so forth. Mamili pod siguro kano og katong mga again trusted og kanang sure na gyud nga mga licensees nga dili gyud ka traidoron. So the contract of licensing will cover parameters such as the technology package, use conditions, including territorial rights and performance requirements, compensation, and provision for the settlements of disputes. So these are the covers. So these are parameters man. Imong conditions, imo ginang include always the rights, the performance, compensation, and settlements. You should always put in the agreement too nga after mahuman ni nga agreement or nga time period, I hope nga kuan if ever nga imong awaton or gamiton ni nga mga processes without my consent, I will sue you or something ana. So pasakaan ka og kaso if gamiton nimo again kani nga mga process or imo siyang awaton, especially if na siya patent or trademark. So imo gyapon nang i-include again sa agreement. Dapat kumpleto ang imong licensing agreement, dapat all the parameters are covered from technology pa lang to performance to processes and so on and so forth. Para dili gyud siya makalusot. So that is for licensing. So now we are going to continue. We are going to discuss franchising. So again, there's a big difference between licensing and franchising. So franchising is to some degree a cousin of licensing. So cousin ra daw sila. Medyo dual ra biya. So it is an arrangement whereby the franchisor gives the franchisee the right to use the franchisor's trade names, trademarks, business models, or know-how in a given territory for territory rather for a specific time period, normally at least 10 years. So for franchising, merge imo siyang i-duplicate or awaton tanan ang um given nga company or what we call the franchisor. So you as a franchisee, again, na kay right to use everything sa franchisor. So I think na familiar na pud mo ani franchising. We have McDonald's, Jollibee, those are franchises. Okay? Here in Valencia. So in exchange daw sa franchisor, they get royalty payments daw og other fees too. So mo daw ni gyapon nilang ginabayad royalty payments and other fees, but medyo dako compared sa licensing. So the package could include the marketing plan, the operating manuals, the standards, training, financial assistance, territorial rights, and quality monitoring. So these are included in the package. So mas dako ug mas daghan siya og scope compared to licensing. So for global expansion of a franchise, the method of choice is often master franchising. So for global expansion daw sa franchise, more on master franchising daw siya ang mahitabo. So with this system, the franchisor gives a master franchise to a local entrepreneur who will in turn sell local franchises within his territory. So the territory could be a certain region within a country or a group of countries. Okay, so kuan daw, ang franchisor daw maghatag do siya og master franchise sa isa ka local nga entrepreneur. So let's say McDonald's. So McDonald's is based on the US. So they are called the franchisor. So maghatag sila og master franchise sa isa ka Pinoy. So let's say in a local entrepreneur in the Philippines. So let's say si Mr. Juan. Si Juan de la Cruz. Gigaan siya og master franchise ni Mr. Franchisor, which is McDonald's. So si Mr. Juan de la Cruz nagpatukod siya og McDonald's sa Luzon first. So after Luzon, nagtukod na po siya sa Visayas. After Visayas, sa Mindanao, and so on and so forth. So it might be a region or a group of countries. It depends. So let's have this example. We have Domino's Pizza. So DPG, which is a UK, okay, United Kingdom-based master franchisee for the pizza delivery brand with exclusive rights to operate and franchise Domino's Pizza stores in Britain, Ireland, and Germany. So usually the master franchise holder agrees to establish a certain number of outlets over a given time horizon. So si Mr. Domino's Pizza daw, kay UK-based daw ni siya nga franchisee sa pizza delivery. So si Mr. Domino, kay nagkuhan siya, nagtukod siya og stores daw sa Britain, Ireland, o Germany. So all over Europe. So probably mo ana din si Mr. Domino nga, okay, so kuan dapat kay kuan ra 5 or 10 lang ka stores ang inyong itukod within Europe. So probably they would say that one, and so on and so forth. So again, it depends na pod sa ilahang franchising agreement as to how many outlets daw ang pwede itukod and as to what time. Like probably for 20 years, 10 lang ka store. Or example, for 5 years, 2 lang ka store ang inyong itukod, and so on and so forth. So that is for franchising. So as easy as simple as that. Again, murag iyang i-duplicate. So for the Philippines, we have McDonald's, franchises man na siya. We have also Jollibee. So Jollibee here. So let's say actually Jollibee, Greenwich, and Red Ribbon kay and Chowking ata. So upat ka buok. Diri sa Valencia kay owned by example a local entrepreneur. Isa rang nag-own ana. While katong Jollibee drive-thru kay lahi po daw ang tag-iya. So that's an example of franchising. Same lang gyapon nga brand pero lahi og tag-iya. So, assumption lang to ha, og example. Pero mo na tong nadunggan, char. Nangadunggan-dunggan ako. There is a Valencia. So, let's continue. So, we have advantages for franchising. So, companies capitalize on a winning business formula by expanding overseas with a minimum amount of investment. So, let's say, mo gini advantage kay kuan man siya kusog kaayo, like especially fast food chains like McDonald's and Domino's Pizza, kay kusog man daw kay siya. That means nga it's very prone to franchising. Daghan kay gusto mo awat sa iya ha. So with that, they tend to expand overseas. Maghatag sila og mga franchising agreement. Okay, kung gusto mo magtukod og Domino's, nami franchising agreement here. Igo ra mo magbayad sa amo og ing-ani ing-ana. Kami na din bahala sa inyo og provide og katong mga processes, mga manpower probably, mga ingredients and so on and so forth. So that is franchising. So political risk for the rights owner are very limited. So dili pud kay siya maka-affect sa kuan. Ikaw as the let's say ikaw ang franchisor, dili kay ka mo unsa tawag ana kanang makikuan bitaw in the local nga mga market dili kay ka manghilabot rather. So dili kay ka maghilabot you as the master franchisor. I mean you are the master nga franchisor. So example, let's say ikaw ang tagiya sa McDonald's, dili kay ka manghilabot sa local or political nga um, mga happenings dito sa local economy. Like example, naman ka sa US. So sa Philippines, we have, let's say, McDonald's there. So dili kay ka manghilabot dito sa ilaha kay kuan man. Na naman siya kuan, na naman sila manager dito daan o na naman someone who is responsible for that, which is the local nga business or company nga nag-franchise sa imuha. So wala na kay interaction kaayo sa ilaha aside from your local business or local company nga nag-franchise sa imuha. So more gyud ang imuhang concern. There's no need for you to appeal to other nga mga kanabitang aspects, especially political and economic in those localities. So since the franchisees' profits are directly tied to their efforts, franchisees are usually highly motivated. So with that, ang franchisees kay kuan mo sila, they tend to do their own effort locally. So the more halin they have, probably the bigger the profit there is. So you as the franchisor, then mas ganahan gyud ka magpa-franchise pag yun nga given nga igo ra ka mo sit back and mo tan-aw, mo assist lang sa ilaha what do they need and want. Then igo rin ka tigdawat. So as easy as that gyapon, you can really penetrate or enter a market given this strategy. So the franchisor can also capitalize on the local franchisee's knowledge of the local marketplace. So they often have a much better understanding of local customs and laws in the foreign firms. So si franchisor daw, gakakuan po sila, kanamit lang gapangay po sila knowledge sa franchisees about sa local market. Kamusta man imong market dira sa Bukidnon? Okay ra ba nga mag-expand ta sa Maramag? Kusog ba sa Maramag? And so on and so forth. So as you all know, McDonald's, Manata, or Jollibee day. So let's say Jollibee. So ni-expand na siya sa Manolo. So as you all know, Bukidnon, kay dili ba kay ta um, capitalize aside from Valencia. Si Valencia mo dawat man ta og mga kuan manggod mga let's say foreign investors. So mudawat kay tag mga other investors. So karon hinahinay na pud ang Manolo na sila Jollibee. So probably puhon sa Maramag basi nanay Jollibee pud nga ituko dira. So hinahinay na pud ang mga investors. So that's an example of franchising. So, ang franchisor mga na siya og kuan idea nga kamusta man ang Bukidnon, okay ra ba nga mo expand pa gyud ang Jollibee, mag-expand ta sa Quezon or sa um let's say Maramag. So I think kabantay na pud mo sa 7-Eleven, it's already in Don Carlos too. So they had been expanding and expanding here in Bukidnon. So that's the knowledge of franchisor nga hala okay man di ang kuan diri o ang market sa Bukidnon. So maghinahinay tag-expand na nata sa Quezon, nata sa Don Carlos, sa Maramag pud siguro puhon and so on and so forth. So those are the advantages. So medyo tsada gyud gyapon siya. Dako kaghalin, igura ka mo sit back and assist. But there are also many disadvantages of franchising. So the franchisor's income stream is only a fraction of what it would be if the company held an equity stake in the foreign ventures. So gamay ra gyud kay ang imuhang halin compared nga if ikaw mismo ang nagtukod daw og franchise ato nga market. So compare mo daw na ang iyang disadvantage yun. So labon nga imuha daw ang 100% na profit, pila ra imong profit makuha? Probably 25%. So it depends on your agreement. But still, if marami tao good as kung ikaw ang nagkuan dadto tukod mas dako kay halin, but dili man ikaw. So, gamay ra pud dili ra pud kay dako ang imuhang gakadawat. So firms with little or no name recognition typically face a major challenge finding interested partners in the foreign market. So this is the disadvantage. Katupad ang mga local nga markets or local na businesses, those local companies daw nga dili daw kay ilado, probably dili kay sila makakita og or di kay sila maka-franchise og maayo kay gapamili pod biya ni let's say McDonald's, mamili pod biya na sila og mga maayo nga kuan investors, kapangita sa maayo nga mga local nga companies. So katigong pong legit ang ilang pilion. So kato daw dili kayo ilado or mga startup pa nga business, dili kay sila mosalig. Kay given nga morbig ipasalig nila ang ilahang pangalan sa imuha. So gapamili po na sila which one should they ay kay kinsa sila mo franchise. So katong gagmay nga mga firm dili kay sila mo choose. So finding suitable franchisees or a master franchisee can be a stumbling block in many markets. So lisod daw kayo mangita og kuan kana bitang reliable nga franchisees. Kay again, let's say ikaw tag-iya ka sa McDonald's, mamili po siguro ka no og representative nimo. So good as representative, so you need to choose carefully. So lisod daw na siya especially when you don't know the real market itself or probably mahadlok lang yun ka nga ma-tarnish or ma-doubt imuhang name. So a major concern is the lack of full control over the franchisee's operations and marketing strategies. So mo gyud na number one nga disadvantage. Kana bitang imuhang full control sa franchisee operations and market strategies. So lack of control daw dili kay ka dili kay ka makakuan sa ila maka ingon og what to do and not to do given nga ni franchise ra pud ni ga-franchise ra pud biya sila napud biya sila kuan right to do their own operation. So mao pud na imong disadvantage dili ka makaingon sa ilaha o maka-dictate sa ilaha og mga kanabitang let's say proper or kanabitang mga strategies or operations that they need to do. So depende pod biya na sa local nila nga again market. So let's have this example. We have IKEA's franchisee in Saudi Arabia posted a women-free version of the company's catalogs on IKEA's Saudi website. So sa IKEA daw, nado sila franchisee sa Saudi Arabia, So they have a women-free version daw sa company's catalog. So for those women kay as we all know Saudi is very strict to pod biya sa ilahang sa ilang mga culture, especially regarding men and women. So dapat lahi po daw ang sa women gyud daw nga let's say nga murag area in IKEA og sa men. So this is another disadvantage. Dili makabot si IKEA sa ilaha kay given nga they have different cultures and they have their own kanang standards po as a franchisee. So photos of the original IKEA catalog were doctored so that they did not show any images of women. The sanitized version was soon discovered by the Swedish press and news about the photo edits spread rapidly around the world. And as you all know, we have example katong catalog daw. So stricto man kay si Saudi nga dapat wala daw image of women sa mga catalog. So with that, probably ilang ilisan, especially katong probably ga sleeveless or ga shorts nga mga women or ilang gibutngan og sanina. So ilang gi doctor, ilang gipambutngan og gi-edit nila ang catalog itself. So na tingala ang Swedish nga press, hala nganong ingani ang catalog. Same man mig catalog pero nganong ilang gibutngan og sinina. So mo din to ni spread siya online then natingala po si IKEA nga hala sorry wala man good may kuan ana wala may mahimo ana wa may control over that matter given nga that's our franchisee sa Saudi and mo pud ilang culture. So that's another disadvantage for franchising. Wala sila mahimo if nahihimuon ang isa ka certain franchisee regarding sa ilahang company, especially kani ilang gi-alter ang catalog kay bawal daw na ay women sa catalog. So IKEA issued an apology and promised to review its routines in response to the issue. Given the largely intangible nature of many franchising systems, cultural hurdles can also be a problem. So, ni apologize si IKEA kay probably na-trigger ato, nasuko. Hala, nganong inyong mang ilisan si kani, nganong inyong mang kuan na so on so forth. Kaya ang uban dili biya makasabot sa culture. So number one daw nga source of kana bitang issue is our cultures. Kay lahi pod biya ta. Kay basi magbuot-buot manggod ang atong mga franchisee ug unsa ilang himuon. Kay gi-base ra pod biya nila silang culture. So it would be accepted. So mo to nag-apologize si IKEA nga okay dili na ni mabalik again amo rang i-review ang ilahang process ug nganong ila tong gihimo and so on and so forth. So that is for franchising. So let's continue to joint ventures and alliances. So the second from the last napamantay isa. Okay, so let's continue. So joint ventures and alliances. So joint ventures prove to be the most viable way to enter foreign markets, especially emerging markets. With a joint venture, the foreign company agrees to share equity and other resources with other partners to establish a new entity in the host country. So, mo dun yung pinaka-viable na way to enter a foreign market. Given nga you also have the full control itself compared to franchising. So wala man kay control ato sa ilang operation. So with joint venture, mura kag nakipag-partner na gid ani. So you are still the one who takes control in the operation, in the production, the processing, and so on and so forth in a given market, especially in the foreign market. So nakipag-collaborate ka with a certain local na company. So that's what we call joint venture na agreement or nakipag-alliance. So strategic alliances refer to a broader form of partnership. So good as partnership, a coalition of two or more organizations to achieve strategically significant goals that are mutually beneficial. So more on partnership but two or more ni siya nga organizations involved or company involved. So they have a mutual nga goal which is again probably to enter a certain market and to have profit, to be profitable. So in some cases, alliance partners will seal the tie-up by investing in one another. So most of the time, they tend to tie up with one another by investing. So mag-invest ko sa imo, mag-invest pud ka sa ako. So that is joint venture. So say um, let's say you have a foreign company in the US and the Philippines. So they collaborated with one another and they have a joint venture or alliance. So partnership may be created between competitors, between suppliers and manufacturers, between companies and distributors, or between firms and the government institution or the NGOs, national government organizations. So it can be created. Probably bahalag ka mo, kalaban mo, or supplier manufacturer, companies of distributor, or you and the government itself. So partnership can be created anywhere and anytime in the business na aspect. So firms may use partnership to improve the effectiveness of their branding strategies. This can take the form of brand alliances in which the partner puts their brand or logo in the same product. So let's have the example. We have Fuji, Xerox, Hero, Honda, an Indian motorbike brand. So that's another example. So more on it gives effectiveness ilang branding strategies. So they have brand alliances. So more siya gina-collaborate niya. So atong example si Fuji nga Xerox. So probably this is a printer in Japan and in a certain area or a certain company, so Xerox nga company. So we also have an example si Hero Honda. So Indian motorbike daw ni siya. So, nakipag-collaborate daw siya sa Honda but nakipag-collaborate sila sa Honda. So, Hero is a local Indian motorbike na brand and Honda itself. So, that's another example. So in some cases, the collaboration could result in a newly created brand name. So with the collaboration, bago daw nga brand name ang gagawas. So let's have this example. We have Nestea. So the ready-to-drink tea brand is one of the best-known examples. So si Nestea daw, um, one of the best examples in joint ventures and alliances. So in 2001 daw, si Coca-Cola o si Nestle. Oh, it's Nestle. Oh, yes, Nestle. Sorry, nalibog ko. Si Nestle, manday kay sila man din nag-produce sa Nestle. So, si Coca-Cola o si Nestle, nag-set up sila og Beverage Partners Worldwide. So, Beverage Partners Worldwide as a 50-50 joint venture to expand Nestle in Europe, Canada, and some other markets. So, si Coke o si Nestle, nag-collaborate sila 50-50 daw ang ilahang share 50% nga halin for Coke and 50 for Nestle to expand Nestle in Europe, Canada, and some other markets. So by combining the ilang forces, the two firms hope they could compete more effectively against Unilever's Lepton tea brand. Okay, nag-collaborate sila in order to again kanang to compete with Lipton daw. So si Lipton manggod kay one, I think number one siya sa Europe, Canada. Nga brand, Nestle brand. So si Nestle kay bag-o pa manggod ni siya. So hinay-hinay pa siya og enter sa Europe o Canada nga market. So that's why they want to again kanang compete with Lipton. So that's why they collaborated. So companies could also use cross-border alliances for distributing their goods in the host markets or to bolster their global new products development effort. So na daw kuan cross-border alliances in order to distribute ilahang goods sa host markets or ilahang product. So murag gyapon to murag ikaw kini pag-collaborate sa ila to distribute their goods. So, mura kag cross-border nga alliances, bahalag, let's say, Nestle kay sa Australia. So, si Coke kay sa US. So, Australia and US collaborated in which Coca-Cola and, let's say, Nestle, nagkipag-collaborate sila to, again, compete with Lipton, which is sa UK. So that's an example. So a case in point is a joint venture that Coca-Cola and Sanofi. So si Coke po daw si Sanofi daw, another example sa cross-border alliance. So a French multinational healthcare company, si Sanofi, set up to develop and market health drinks in French pharmacies. So under the partnership, Coca-Cola agreed to develop a new range of healthier beverages under the brand name Beautiful Onibule, while Sanofi would oversee the distribution. I think kabantay po more familiar mo nga daghan kay product si Coca-Cola. So they had collaborated with many companies. So another example kay si Sanofi. So nakipag joint venture daw siya. Si Sanofi kay sa French multinational healthcare company. So nagdevelop sila og healthier nga beverage si Beautiful Onibule. So si kani daw nga product si Sanofi daw ang ga-distribute but na daw halin si Coca-Cola ani kay nagtabang man siya og invest ani nga product. So that's for joint venture. So depending on the equity stake, three forms of partnership can be distinguished. Na daw at least three forms of partnership based on the equity. So probably majority, more than 50% ownership, 50-50 or minority. So it depends on their agreement sa ilang joint venture. So let's say for Coke and Sanofi, probably minority si Coke kay igo raman siya magtabang og invest while all the operations and distribution kay Sanofi. So that's an example. Then katupong kaganina si Nestle ug si Coke 50-50 ang ilahang equity stake. Well, for let's have an example, si Coke mismo ug si Nestle, what if si Coke ang ga-produce pod at the same time ga-invest? So let's say 60% ang iya. So Coke has the majority sa equity ani nga company. So huge infrastructure or high-tech projects that demand a large amount of expertise and money often involve multiple foreign and local partners. So katudong high-tech nga mga projects nga need you daw og money og expertise kay they involve in multiple foreign and local partners such as let's say Apple or Coke itself and so on and so forth. So most of the time these MNCs they tend to have multiple foreign and local partners. So another distinction is between cooperative and equity joint ventures. So napo daw ingani nga type sa joint ventures. So a cooperative joint venture is an agreement for the partners to collaborate but does not involve any equity investment. So cooperative from the word itself, agreement to is sa mga partners nga okay magkuan ta mag joint venture ta, mag-partner ta but dili ta mag-invest. We won't be investing in equity but probably mag-cooperate based on our assets. So probably based on the technology that you have, based on the knowledge that you have, and so on and so forth. So, more siya ingana. So, let's say cooperative joint venture daw si Sanofi o si Coke. So, for instance, one partner must contribute manufacturing technology whereas the other partner provide access to distribution channels. So, mo ni siyang example. Ang isa sa manufacturing, ang isa sa distribution. So, cooperative joint ventures are quite common for partnership between multinational companies and local players in emerging markets. Especially, katulad ng multinational companies. So, let's say, Coke. So, Coke is an MNC. So, nag-top din siya sa, let's have a local player sa local company here in the Philippines. So, let's say si Coke o si local beverage company sa Philippines. So, nagsabot sila. Okay, let's have a cooperative joint venture. So, with that, ako mag-manufacture, ako mag-produce, ikaw din mag-distribute sa atong product. Okay? So, 50-50 taan eh. We'll have a cooperative joint venture here. So, ikaw mag-distribute sa akong product, ikaw mag-distribute sa akong product kay ako mag-produce. Gaan lang tika og mga stocks or mga product itself and so on and so forth. So more siya na ang cooperative joint venture. So a good example in the collaborative approach is Cisco sales strategy in Asia. Di ko sure if familiar mo sa Cisco. Cisco is kanang ga-provide din sila mga router, ga-provide din sila og mga hardware sa ato ang mga sa internet or technology. So number one at aning Cisco all over the world. So collaborative approach daw sa Cisco in Asia. So instead of investing on its own sales force, Cisco builds up partnership with hardware investors like IBM, consulting firms, KPMG or system integrators, Singapore-based Datacraft. So these partners in essence act as front people for Cisco. They are the ones that sell and install Cisco routers and switches. So instead daw nga si Cisco mismo magtukod sa iyahang company sa local market, example, sa Asia, sa Singapore, sa Malaysia, Philippines. Instead nga si Cisco mismo naging-collaborate siya sa katong mga hardware vendors like kanabitang vendors, firms, or system integrators. Let's say sa Octagon, nagkipag-collaborate siya sa Octagon kay para ibaligya iyang router, iyang switches. So, mo daw na ang iyang gihimo para sila mismo ang distribute sa iyang product. So, that is their joint venture under Cisco. So, that's for cooperative man. Again, kuan mo gani siya related pud nga company iyang gipili. So, let's say Globe na lang. So, let's say Globe. So, si Cisco daw ug si Globe nag-collaborate. So, ang mga tanan router ni Globe daw kay Cisco made. So, that's an example of cooperative nga venture. So, wala sila share ani but si Cisco lang tig-provide atong mga router sa Globe. So, that's their typical nga kuan distribution. So, the more nga daghan mo bayo og Cisco router sa Globe, the more halin pod for Cisco itself. So that's an example for cooperative joint venture. Well, for equity joint venture, it is an arrangement in which the partners agree to raise capital in proportion to the equity stakes agreed upon. So from the word itself, equity joint venture. The focus is to raise their capital, their equity, their profit based on their gi-invest sa company. So the partners in an equity joint venture each contribute capital and resources in exchange for an equity stake to share in any resulting profits. So from the word itself, equity. So they tend to invest money itself. So magbay sila og capital. So katong 50-50 majority or minority. So let's say Cisco og si Globe. So nagkuan daw sila equity joint venture. So nagbayad daw si Cisco og 50% ay nag-invest siya 50%. So same with Globe. So the more halin that they have, ilabot yung tungaon by 50-50. So how about if majority nga stake or nga stocks is naa kay kuan Globe. So probably 60-40. So it depends on their agreement again, but based on their equity stake mo pud to ang ilang i-divide silang profit. So the higher their percent is, the greater their dividend would be. So that's joint ventures and alliances. So we have advantages for joint venture and alliances. So the advantages is that joint ventures entail much more control over the operations than other modes of entry. So dako gid siya og control over sa operation given nga ikaw mismo ang imong company mismo ang nag collaborate or nag-operate in the foreign market with the assistance lang sa imong partner. So mo gyud ni siya ang um mura bitawg compared sa other mode of entry, pinaka maghatag sa imuha og control over your company itself. So the synergy argument is another compelling reason for setting up a joint venture. Partnership not only means a sharing of capital and risk. So synergy argument mo gyud ang reason why you need to have a joint venture. Like let's say from the word itself synergy, more siya kana bitang kuan kay mo duha kanang bagay charing. Murag bagay or kada bitaw ang inyong products kay in sync yun with one another, murag complements ang inyong products or services. So let's say that's an example. So with that, mas makakuan siya sa imo nga, okay, mas nice yun din ni joint venture. Nga let's say, Cisco and Globe, di ba? Globe kay ga-provide og internet, while Cisco ga-provide og routers. So with that, they have synergy. So pwede gid sila mag-collaborate with one another. That's one of its advantages. That's why you need to have a joint venture if again na ay complementing company pod in a foreign or probably local nga market. So partnership not only means a sharing of capital and risk. Dili lang sa capital and risk but also the operation itself and other nga mga processes. So dili lang dira nga partner mo, dili lang sa investment og sa gasto. So other possible contributions brought in by the local partner include land, raw materials, expertise on the local environment, culture, legal, political, access to distribution network, personal contacts with suppliers, and relations with government officials. So local partner kay daghan daw ka siya contribution. Like let's say ikaw foreign MNC ka. So you are a foreign company. You tend to penetrate daw a local you want to again penetrate a local market. So Cisco nagkipag-collaborate sa Globe para makasulod sila sa Philippines. So with that daghan kay gi-provide si Globe raw materials, iyang expertise sa local environment, sa culture, sa distribution network, sa contacts with suppliers and the government nga officials, yang relations, and so on and so forth. So daghan gyud siya gina-open nga doors for you if you tend to have a partnership or a joint venture on a local or foreign na market. So combined with the foreign partner skills and resources, these inputs offer the key to successful market entry. With those kuan daw resources plus kanang skills daw sa imong partner, there would probably be a successful market entry given nga tsada kayo ang inyong synergy, tsada kayo ang inyong mura bitaw combination. So let's have this example. We have Sony Ericsson partnership. They offer an excellent example. So the tie-up combined Ericsson's technology, prowess, and strong links to wireless operations with Sony's marketing skills and expertise in consumer electronics. So si Sony Ericsson daw kay lahi-lahi din nga company, nag-collaborate pud sila. I think familiar mo ni Sony Ericsson. So ang technology daw kay sa Ericsson, then ang marketing kay sa Sony. With that, fast gyud kay ilang penetrate sa market, then maayo pud kay ang ilahang partnership. Tsada kay sila og synergy or kanang chemistry kung sa kuan pa lang sa atuwa. Tsada kay sila chemistry ang duha. So perfect partner. So each partner stood to gain from helping the other grow in regions where it was weak. Japan for Ericsson and Europe for Sony. So with that, again, nagtinabanga sila. So si Ericsson hinay daw siya sa Japan, so gipakusgan siya ni Sony. Then si Sony po daw kay hina siya sa Europe, so nagtinabangay sila. With Ericsson's help, nikusog na noon siya sa Europe. So in the late 2011 daw, almost exactly 10 years after they formed the alliance, the company split in good terms when Sony announced it would buy our Ericsson's 50% share of the business for 1.5 billion and renamed the entity Sony Mobile Communications. So after pila daw ka years, 10 years, especially in 2011, nawala na daw ang Sony Ericsson kay gipalit ni Sony ang Ericsson at gipalit daw niya ang 50% share. So majority nga share sa Ericsson for 1.5 billion and iyan daw gi-change ang company into Sony Mobile Communication. So natagak nga iyahan na mismo ang Ericsson. So that is its advantage. You can buy na dayon if makayan din himo imong partner puhon. Pero lain pud kayo, loy pud kay sila. But again, it depends on the situation. So we have disadvantages too of joint ventures and alliances. So first is the lack of trust and mutual conflicts between the partner firms. So mo gini ang problem pod if you have a partner. Wala mo isalig, then there is mutual conflict. Probably ang isa dili lang siya gusto og profit, gusto pud siya og more connection or distributor. Ang isa kay focus lang pud siya sa profit. And so on and so forth. So probably that's the advantage. Di na mo magkasinabot sa imuhang kauban ug wa na pud mo isalig. So conflicts can arise over matters such as strategies, resource allocation, transfer pricing, and ownership of critical assets like technologies and brand name. So most areas nga kanabitang makakos og away or problem sa partners kay katong strategy, their operation, ang resource allocation, ang money, ang pag-price, transfer pricing daw, and ownership of some critical assets like technology or brand name. Kana mag-ilog na dayon mo, that's where conflicts daw arise. More on the operation, sa money, sa ownership, sa transfer of their pricing. So for instance, in 1948 daw, Honda and Hero Group set up a joint venture to manufacture and sell motorbikes under the Hero Honda brand name in India. So Honda would provide the technology while Hero would handle the marketing. So si Honda daw ug si Hero kay they are under a cooperative joint venture. So ang technology kay Honda, so ang marketing kay Hero. So nag-manufacture daw sila og motorbikes, mga motor sa India. So familiar man kayo mo sa mga motor sa India aside sa helicopter bitaw. So through the Hero Honda brand became one of the leading motorcycle brands in India. So the relationship grew increasingly troublesome. Okay, nagka-problema daw sila. Honda was reluctant to give its Indian partner access to its technological expertise. So kani number one naman siya si India, si Hero siguro kay kuan kay siya ba persistent. Siya nga, Honda, tudluin ako ba ginaunsa ninyo paghimo sa inyong mga products. So natingala na si Honda. Di siya gusto nga ihatag ang iyahang technological expertise. So nahadlok siya sa iyang licensing. Ay sa iyang kuan, sa iyang processes, especially in the technological field. So ang paghimo sa ilang motor itself. So di siya ganahan nga maghatag og access kay Hero. So in 1999, Honda set up a wholly owned subsidiary daw. 5 years after this subsidiary became a direct competitor for Hero Honda motorbikes when it started producing motorbikes. So in 2010, following a string of issues, the two partners called it quits. So because of that, si Honda mismo kay nagkuan siya. Nagtukod yun siya isa gyud ka company sa India itself. So nagkompetensya siya sa Honda ay Hero Honda. So after that one, nagsigina sila away after how many years? So by 2010, ilan nang quit ang ilahang joint venture. Kaya di naman sila magkasinabot. Kay probably dili lagi gusto si Honda nga mohatag og access kay Hero kay basin i-traitor daw siya, charing. So more daw iyan ang nahitabo. So that's a disadvantage. So conflicting objective between partners too. Those are another thing to consider. Cultural strains between partners per mistrust and mutual conflict. This one too, kana bitang based on the culture, then makakuan siya, makakause og mistrust og mutual conflict sa duha ka sa partners. So, okay, let's say Honda og kuan biya, Honda og Hero. Si Honda kay Japan, then Hero is in India. Probably di sila ganahan sa mga batasan. Let's say example ha, sa Indian, kay medyo kuan biya kayo disciplined kay ang mga Japanese, while Indians kay dili kay sila let's say disciplined. So that's an example. Okay, example only. So no kuan ha stereotyping. So just for an example, sa cultural strains. So So we have this example. We have Auto Latina, a joint venture set up by Ford Motor Co. and Volkswagen AG in Latin America was dissolved after 7 years in spite of the fact that it remained profitable to the very end. So si Ford Motor o si Volkswagen. Si Ford kay US, si Volkswagen kay is in Germany. So, or in Europe. So with that, na say joint venture sa Latin America, Auto Latina. So, nag-dissolve daw sila after 7 years, kay probably there is a cultural strains between the two. So, US and let's say Europe, nag-away daw siguro sila and something like that. Then, nag-dissolve sila after 7 years, bahalag, unsa sila ka-profitable, ana nga company. So, na like cultural nga differences. So cultural differences between German and American managers were a major factor. One participating executive noted that there were good intentions behind Autolatina's formation, but they never really overcame the Volkswagen Ford cultural shock. So, na daw more tension between German and American daw nga managers ato nga time. So that's why ilan na lang mura giguba I mean gi-cancel ni nga joint agreement. So sayang unta kay siya. Siya daw unta ang ilaha dong performance, but again there is a cultural difference. German and Americans were a major factor. So when trouble undermines the joint ventures, the partner can try to resolve the conflict via mechanism built into agreement. So probably if makaya pa og kana bitawng storya makaya pa og dili bitaw siya matibulaag, pwede pa man siya mastoryahan, especially when it is you have mechanics built into the agreement, like ay hara dapat mo magbulag if um ay mo magbulag under this kuan clause. Let's say kung kuan daw di mo magkasinabot, or probably there is fraud or mistrust and so on and so forth. So depende sa inyong agreement nga gihimo. So if a mutually acceptable resolution is not achievable, then the joint venture is scaled back or dissolved. If dili daw siya ma-resolve, then ma-dissolve. Sayang kayo if both of the parties would really not amend with one another bitaw. So sayang ang ilang gihimo. So we have this example, a joint venture between Unilever and AKI in South Korea. So they broke up. Okay, nagbulag sila after 7 years daw. Following this agreement over brand strategies for new products, resource allocation, advertising support, and brand ownership. So nara sila disagreement over certain nga mga matters, more on the brand strategy, ilahang investment, resource allocation. ilang pag-advertise, ownership, and so on and so forth. So after 7 years nga nag-operate together, nagbulag na gyud sila, wado forever. So that's another example for a disadvantage of joint venture. So I guess we'll just continue. Ato lang yun ning tiwason. Kahapit naman tamahuman for chapter 2. So we have drivers behind successful international joint ventures. So what are the drivers kaya to have a successful joint venture? So first, you need to pick the right partner, establish clear objectives for the joint venture from the very beginning, bridge cultural gaps, tap managerial commitment and respect, and incremental approach works best. So these are the drivers nga in order for you to really succeed in your international ventures or your partnership with foreign or cultural na mga companies. So picking the right partner first. So most joint ventures prosper by choosing a suitable partner. So that means that the multinational should invest the time to identify proper candidates. A careful screening of the joint venture partner is an absolute necessity. So number one, you really need to choose wisely. Kinsa yun imong gusto nga i-partner for life, bitaw. Suitable nga partner sa imong business. Imo gyud siyang pong i-check ang iyang criteria. You should set criteria, internal or external criteria, as what we had discussed, as to what um, company, local or foreign company would you choose nga mabagay sa imuha o trustworthy pud siya sa imuhang joint venture. So one problem is that it is not easy to sketch a profile of the ideal partner. So dili gini siya sa yun. So the presence of complementary skills and resources that lead to synergies is one characteristic of successful joint ventures. So prospective partners should also have compatible goals. So same gyapon kay ganina, there should be synergies. So dapat there is mutual nga understanding between you two sa imong partner, sharing. Then kanang mutual daw inyong goals, compatible, synergies pud sa inyong business nga nature itself. So example, ikaw kay let's say coffee and coffee mate. So with that, perfect kay mga partner kay there is synergy or chemistry between you two. So that's when you'll know nga okay, right ni siya nga partner sa ako kay bagay ni siya sa ako ang product. So they complement one another. So that is for the first one, you should pick again the right partner. The second is you need to establish clear objectives for the joint venture from the very beginning. So it is important to clearly spell out the objectives of the joint venture from day one. So dapat day one pa lang mo nag-ila sa imong partner, charang, dapat nag-istorya na mo daan. Okay, ang ako yung gusto ani nga partnership is makahalin yun taog dako. We need to be profitable. Okay, so probably that's your number one objective. Para clear pud sa inyo bitaw, magkasinabot yun mo. Unsa gid inyong gusto for each of your companies. So partners should know what their respective contributions and responsibilities are before signing the contract, and they should also know what to expect from the partnership. So dapat kabalo sila unsa ang ilang dapat kabalo sila unsa ang ilang responsibility, ilang contribution, unsa ilahang need to invest in the partnership, and also what to expect. So dapat imo po nang i-clear sa iya before mo sign sa contract itself. So the contract itself should be set properly and accordingly para again wala bitaw libog or walay ay magkasinabot jud mo sa imuhang partner. So next it okay. So next is we need to bridge cultural gaps. So as we all know, okay, as we all know, we have different nga companies or nga cultures, especially foreign and local nga company. So you need to bridge cultural gaps first. Many joint venture disputes stem from cultural differences between the local and the foreign partners. So much agony and frustration can be avoided when the foreign investor makes an attempt to bridge cultural differences. Para magkasinabot pud mo, you tend to kuan dapat kanang magstorya na mo what are the possible nga differences between you two, then inyo pong i-clear sa isa't isa bitaw. Like let's say, Philippines and Japan, kabalo bita nga different kay tag culture. They are very disciplined compared sa atoa nga wala kay tag na discipline ug ayo. So let's have that example. Saba kay mga Pinoy, sudhilom kay mga Japan. So with that, at least kana pa lang daan, magkasinabot na mo para to avoid further nga conflicts, especially not now or puhon. So for instance, when setting up joint ventures in China, where China have an ethnic Chinese or an old China hand as a middleman often helps a great deal. The problem is that knowledgeable people who share the perspective of both cultures are often very hard to find. So example, nakipag-joint venture daw ka sa isa ka Chinese nga company. So with that, you need to have a middleman. So they call it old China hand. Para at least kana bitang makasabot gyud ka o kabalo pud gyud ka um what their culture is, at least na kay perspective sa ilaha. So those people, katong middleman, makahelp sa imo to share their knowledge, both sa ilang culture and sa ilang perspective, para magkasinabot pug ka sa imuhang Chinese nga partner. So that's the third one. We have the fourth one. Okay, in a minute. Is this correct? Okay, we don't have four. Okay, in a minute. Okay, so let's continue. So the fourth one is top managerial commitment and respect. So top managerial commitment and respect. So without strong commitment from the partner companies, top management, most international ventures are doomed to failure. So dapat na daw commitment and respect between one of you two. I mean between the both of you and your partner. Kay needed good ni siya. Dapat sure good mo nga mo commit into this investment or into this partnership. So the companies should be willing to assess their best managerial talent to do joint ventures. So venture managers should also have complete access to and support from their respective parent company. So dapat kay, again, there is assistance between the both of you, especially those top managerial talents. Dapat sila gyud ang imuhang ibutang ani nga partnership. So the fifth one, this would be the last one, incremental approach works best. So rather than being over ambitious, an incremental approach towards setting up the international joint venture appears to be much more effective. So from the word itself, incremental approach. So more siya hinay-hinayon, step-by-step nga approach in setting international joint venture. So dili po ni maibol to diritso. So one at a time. So the partnership starts at a small scale. So ginagmay to dinaggo. So gradually the scope of the joint venture is broadened by adding other responsibilities and activities to the joint venture's charter. So hinay-hinay din kag padako nga padako. So example, the first year observation pa nimo, okay, this is working, so maghinay-hinay na kog invest more and more atong padakon nga padakon ang scope until nga makita gyud nimo nga la effective gyud di siya, tsada gyud di akong partner, and so on and so forth. So the foreign partner often starts off with a minority stake and gradually increases its stake in the joint venture. So again, from gagmay to dinagko. So a study by a team of McKinsey consultants also advises parent companies to create a launch team during the launch phase, beginning with the signing of a memorandum of understanding and continuing through the first 100 days of operation. So mura daw mog na ay say na mura probationary nga period. So 100 days daw. So in the first 100 days, magkuan pa daw mo, mag-check if it is feasible daw. Makaya ra ba? Or makaya or possible ba nga partnership sa inyo duha? So trial stage first. So the launch team should address the four key joint venture challenges. So build and maintain strategic alignment across the separate corporate entities, each of which each of which has its own goals, market pressures, and shareholders. So dapat they should address the four key joint venture challenge, building a strategic alignment between the two companies, set their own goals, the market pressure, and the shareholder itself. So create a governance system that promotes shared decision making and oversight between different companies. So they must need, especially for the managers, to create a system nga dapat kay mutual yun daw siya or kanabitang, especially in communicating with one company to another. Para dapat nga nabito sila grounds as to grounds to make kanabitang decisions, both of them. So manage the economic interdependence between the corporate parents and the joint venture, compensation of each partner for its contribution. So there is managing the interdependencies, kuan ba na siya, good as independent companies be ang joint venture. One sole company and one sole company in a partnership. So build the organization for the joint venture like staffing, position, assigning responsibilities. So di ba, let's say you have um, Coffee and Coffee Mate. So, duha daw ni sila ka company. So, nag-joint venture sila. So, with that, dapat maghimo sila another organization for the joint venture itself, responsible sa partnership. Okay, while they are in a joint venture, they are still operating as one whole company itself. So, coffee yun siya. Coffee mate yun siya. So, dapat na po'y lahi nga organization for their joint venture. So lahi na po din ni siya nga murag nga operation itself. So those are the drivers behind successful international ventures. So we will be ending our session here. So I hope you had learned many things. So daghan-daghan gud siya. Again, we had discussed the market entry strategies. So thank you for listening. If you have any questions, you can email me or message me through Facebook. So this is all for today. Thank you so much, everyone, and goodbye.